मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी राजधानी।
Well, my dear students and friends, we are again back to the lecture. This lecture, which is number 38 in the series of mechanics of metal forming. Last lecture we started with the 2D examples, wherein we discussed the CST elements, LST elements and quadratic, the displacement function as the combination of quadratic variation, all those. And then if you recall, we took one example finally of the plate element having a hole inside, and it was solved with the finite element method of ANSYS, having the different elements Q8, T8 and all those things, and the result was shown here. Let us now see into the result we have seen, but let us see using the discussion that we continued, how do we proceeded. So, look at this figure where last time we could see it here, where the Q8 element having 493 element was taken and the stress analysis carried out by ANSYS was shown. So, as I told you, the transformation of loads are concerned. So, the concentrated load, that is the point loads, like then the surface traction, that is the pressure loads, and body forces including the weights are the main types of load, right, applied to a structure. Both traction and body forces need to be converted to nodal forces in finite element analysis. This I told you earlier, right. So, since they cannot be applied to the finite element nodal directly, that is how the conversions of these loads are based on the same idea, that is equivalent work concept, which we used for the cases of bar and beam elements, if you remember, right. So, look at this case where the traction on a Q4 element is shown here. So, where is it is a distributed load on the element AB, if you look at, and suppose for example, we have a linearly varying traction Q on a Q4 element edge like here, which is shown. The tractions is normal to the boundary if you look. So, using the local triangle tangential, if you look at the points, the coordinates, one can write the work done by the traction Q as, that is the T integral over 0 to L, if L is the length of the element AB, US if it is varying with S, QS ds, where T is the thickness, capital L is the side length, and US is the component of the displacement which is normal to the edge AB, right. So, for this Q4 element, which is a linear displacement field having, we have one can write down US S, which is equal to 1 minus S divided by capital L, and U plus S by L U A D. So, the tractions, that is QS, which is also linear, is given in a similar manner. One can have, that means QS is equal to 1 minus S divided by L QA plus S by L QB. That is how. That means we have the work done, that is the is equal to T integral from 0 to L over, that means the US UB, that is the displacement vector, multiplied by 1 minus, same thing that those two equations we wrote, one can write down in this integral, and then subsequently it is written at the third step as US A, US B, and T capital L by 6 2 1 1 2 QA and QB, and the equivalent nodal force vector therefore becomes FA FB, and that is equal to T capital L by 6 and the matrix 2 1 1 2 QA QB. Please note that for the constant Q, one has to be the your traction nodal forces vector, that is FA FB is equal to QTL by 2, and the vector, the elements has got 1 and 1. This is shown here. So, for a quadratic element, either triangular or quadrilateral, whether you take, the traction is converted to forces at these nodes along the edges instead of the two nodes, alright. So, the traction tangent to the boundary as well as body forces, okay, are converted to nodal forces in a similar manner, okay. So, then one can calculate the stresses. So, as far as the stress calculation is concerned, the stress in an element is determined by this equation, which is given in 39. That is what we discussed earlier also. That means the stress vector is capital E, capital B, D, where B is the strain nodal displacement matrix and D is the nodal displacement vector, which is known for each element once the global finite element equations has been solved, alright. So, the stresses can be evaluated at any point inside the element, such as the center as well, center of the element, or at the nodes, alright, sides of the nodes. So, contour plot are usually used in finite element analysis software packages like ANSYS during post processing. So, for users to usually inspect the stresses results. So, that is the purpose where the different software give the contour plots. So, and then from that one can calculate the von Mises stress. So, the von Mises, as I told you, as the von Mises stress is the effective or equivalent stress for 2D and 3D stress analysis. This you remember what is the effective stress, what is the equivalent or equivalent stress, if you recall, right. So, for a ductile material, the stress level is considered to be safe, and that is sigma must be less than or equal to, that is the shear is the yield stress must be at the domain, or it should be less than or equal to the domain which is shown here. The sigma s is the von Mises stress if it is, and sigma t is the yield stress of the material. So, that means the von Mises stress should be less than or equal to the yield stress of the material. This is a generalization of the 1D experimental result to 2D and 3D simulation. As I told you, the effective stress or equivalent stress, what is the meaning? That comes into 2D or 3D case in the same way as we did experiments, and it is one directional 1D tensile test, right. So, it is effective. However, it is 2D or 3D, but it is effective as similar to the 1D case. That is the meaning. Okay. So, as you remember, the von Mises stress which is defined by this one sigma s, which is 1 by root 2 under root sigma 1 minus sigma 2 square plus sigma 2 minus sigma 3 square plus sigma 3 minus sigma 1 square. That is given in equation number 40, right. So, in which sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3 are the three principal stresses at the considered point at a structure. For a 2D problem, the two principal stresses in the plane are determined by this one, where sigma 1 p and sigma 2 p, that is for the principal stress if it is marked. So, this is well known, and this is what is being shown in equation number 41. All right. So, thus if you look at the of equation 41, the principal stresses, we can also express the von Mises stress in terms of the stress component in the xy coordinate system. So, for plane stress conditions, one can write down the von Mises stress as, that is under root sigma x plus sigma y square minus 3 times sigma x sigma y minus tau x y square, that is the shear stress in xy plane. So, as the stresses are usually averaged in fact at nodes in finite element software packages to provide more accurate stress values. This opinion therefore should be turned off at nodes between the two materials or other geometry discontinuity. Locations where stress discontinuity does not exist, right. So, that is what the one has to be careful. As far as apart from this, one should also know the behavior of the each type of element, right. Like when you choose a software like here ANSYS, so one has to see certain point. The number one, that the behavior of each type of element that we are going to choose, that is here in this case T3 and Q4, that is a linear displacement, constant strain and stress elements. Whereas, if you take the T6 and Q8, that is quadratic displacement and linear stress and strains, right. Secondly, the choice of the right type of element for a given problem is desired, as I mentioned earlier. When in doubt, one must use higher order element or a finer mesh if there is any doubt. Okay. Thirdly, one has to avoid elements with large aspect ratio and corner angles, like here the different elements are shown where the aspect ratio is defined here, that is by this equation. So, you look at two categories, the elements with bad shapes that are there and the elements with nice shape. So, you take the difference. So, aspect ratio, which is the ratio of these two factors, that is L mean and L that are the largest and the smallest characteristic length of an element. So, you can decide the characteristic length, so largest and lowest. So that's the ratio which we call as the, so this has to be avoided. So one has to avoid the element with large aspect ratio and corner angles, therefore, right. Fourthly, which is very important, that connect the elements properly. When you mesh it, the connection of the elements should be very accurate. Don't leave unintended gaps or any free or free element in finite element models, because that will create problem, right. So this figure shows that improper connections where there is a gap along AB and CD, you see there is a gap, so that is not a correct one. Okay. So with this, now there are certain issues that when you model finite element problems, there are certain issues that you are concerned with the better solution. So one may have to choose a solution technique, right, depending on the situation, whether the symmetric problem is there or and then what kind of symmetry is there. So the finite element modeling, the solution technique must also one has to see. So let us see how the solution techniques is concerned while getting a good result. So first, if we see the symmetry, a structure possesses symmetry if its components are arranged in a periodic or a reflective manner. So that gives the meaning of symmetry. In fact, there may be different types of symmetry, like if there is a reflective or mirror or bilateral symmetry, then there may be rotational or cyclic symmetry, right. There may be axis symmetric symmetry, and there may be some other kind of symmetry as well, right. So as far as the application of the symmetry properties are concerned, one has to be careful, and therefore reducing the size of the problem, right, depending on the type of symmetry. So reducing of the size of the problem will save the CPU time and the computational time as well as, and also the disk space, the result would be less and the disk storage would be less, and therefore the proposed post processing effort would also be reduced. So reducing the size of the problem is important depending on the type of symmetry. Secondly, one has to simplify the modeling task, and then by checking the finite element results and all that, right. So there are many such things. Symmetry of a structure in fact should be fully exploited and retained in finite element model to ensure the efficiency and quality of the finite element solution, right. So many of the examples one can see whatever we have discussed, there was certain symmetric as well as. So the only caution to be taken that in vibrations and buckling analysis problem, the symmetry concepts in general should not be used in finite element solution. It works fine in modeling since symmetric structure often have axis symmetric vibrations or buckling nodes. So this point has to be remembered, but no problem, because we are concerned with the metal forming problem, so that does not, but one has to know, right. So because sometimes in case of forming also the type of vibrations and all those things are considered at the Leissner stage. The second thing that concerns apart from the symmetry is your substructures like super elements. Okay. So in fact the substructuring is a process of analyzing a large structure as a collection of small natural components, right. the finite element models for these components are therefore called as structures or super elements. Okay. So, the physical meaning of this is a finite element model where of a portion of say structure, say there is aircraft, big aircraft. So, it is a aircraft is a symmetry, you have a two fins and then you have cockpits and all that, there is a the tail as well as. So, the mathematical meaning, so the physical and mathematical meaning, that the physical meaning you take the portion of the structure and mathematical meaning is the boundary matrices which are load and stiffness matrices reduced or condensed form, the interior points to the exterior are boundary points. So, these are the some of the mathematical things are to be looked. You can see here this figure where the aircraft is shown and a small, that is what is called as the collection of small natural elements can be taken as, and that is what is called as the super elements. So, advantage of using substructure or super elements are therefore, number one, that large problem which will otherwise exceed your computer capabilities, the memories as well as and computation time. So, one can use the super elements for large problem. Secondly, where the less CPU time per run once the super elements have been processed, that is the matrices have been saved. So, less CPU time per run is required. These are the advantages. Thirdly, the components may be modeled by different groups as well. So, the partial redesign requires only partial reanalysis, that will lead to a reduced cost. And last advantage is that efficient for the problems with local non-linearities such as the confined plastic deformation, which can be placed in one super element, that is the residual structure, and it is the super element you have then exact for the static and static stress analysis. This is quite useful. The only disadvantage while choosing a super element is that increased overhead for file management happens, and matrix condensation for dynamic problem introduce new approximations in fact. So, that is the two major disadvantage. Third thing to be looked into, the equation solving. When we solve equations, as I told you, one can use direct methods, right, for solving finite element equations. So, one can use direct method by using Gauss elimination. So, in that case the solution time proportional to NB, where N is your dimensions of the matrix and B is the bandwidth if it is. So, the solution time proportional, it is to NB, okay, and it is this direct method is in fact suitable for small to medium problems or slender structure where there is a small bandwidth. And one can also use the direct method, that is the Gauss elimination, for easy to handle multiple load cases as well. There is another way for solving equations are iterative methods, right. So, in case of iterative method, if you go, so the solution time is unknown beforehand and reduced storage requirements are there. It is the iterative method is suitable for large problem or bulky structure, that is having large bandwidth and convergence faster where you expect. And iterative method need solving again for different load cases, right? So that's the way. Let us see how the gas elimination example. This shows one of the gas elimination example to show you where the set of equation is Ax is equal to B. So the matrix A, the components are there, x1, x2, x3, x vector, and V vector is on the right side. So forward elimination gives here, and then the operations are applied on these matrices, and then you come to the backward elimination. So once you apply the backward elimination and then the back substitution, you get this value. So the values of these variables can be obtained, right? So x1, x2, x3 is obtained here. Okay, so that the x, which is the unknown, which is found out as 15, 5 and 6, this is what the Gauss elimination. And if you use the iterative method, so the Gauss-Seidel method, it is also called as the iterative method as Gauss-Seidel method. So if you apply it on there, so when A is symmetric, previous also case was symmetric. So if you apply this, that means it is the summation of j from 1 to n. So A ij xj is equal to bi, if this is the set of equations where I goes from 1 to capital N number of equations. So one can start with an estimate like x0 and then iterate using the following equations, right? So that means xi I minus 1 is equal to 1 by a, and this is what is shown here for different values of I 1 to capital N. And therefore in the vector form, this the value of unknown, that is x0 to 1, is given as here, where AD is the diagonal matrix of capital A matrix, and AL is the lower triangular matrix of capital A, in such a manner that the whole summation of the matrix A is AD plus AL plus AL transpose. Okay. So iterations continue until the solution for the x converges. That means you have to check the mod of the x 0 1 minus x L xf, that is the final, divided by the mod of xf, and that should be less than or equal to the value of a given tolerance. So that is the, if we say it as the new, so that's the tolerance for the convergence control. So that way we proceed. So it is applicable for larger problem, iterative methods. The fourth thing that has to be keep in mind, that the nature of the finite element solution, right? Because the finite element model, a mathematical model, it's a mathematical model of the real structure and based on many approximation, you know. So the real structure where the infinite number of nodes, physical points of the particles, and thus there is an infinite number of degree of freedom. Okay. So finite in case of then finite element model, what happens? Finite number of nodes are there, and thus there is a finite number of degree of freedom, right? So that's the difference between the finite element model and real structure. So in case of real structure, there is infinite number of nodes and there is infinite number of degree of freedom, but in finite element method you keep it finite. So the displacement field is controlled, or it is constrained by the values at the limited number of nodes. So like if you see here this figure, so this is the element, and within the element the variation is that is the displacement vector. It is, if there is four nodal element, so it is n ij u ij u. This for the 2D case. So the nature of the finite element solution, one has to understood that the real structure, how do you convert, so that you do not lose the accuracy of the result when you model it in finite element method. You know, there is a stiffening effect as well. As the finite element model is stiffer than the real structure, you know. In general, the displacement results are smaller in magnitude than the exact values, right. So that's the stiffness effect, and that condenses the calculation time and computational time. If you look at this, the finite elements solution of displacement provide a lower bound on the exact solution. Look at this figure where these are the finite element solution, and that is the exact solution where. So the finite element solutions where it is displacement is on y axis, and there is a number of degree of freedom if you take. So if you increase the number of degree of freedom, you are going to very closer to the exact solution, right. So one has to see the finite element solution approaches the exact solution from velo, one can see. This is true for displacement based finite element analysis, right. So and then the fifth thing that one has to be very careful and must know, that there is always numerical error, because FE method is approximate, you are approximating between the elements, and so that there are numerical errors associated, and that numerical errors are to be rounded and must also calculate. So in fact there are three different types of numerical errors. One which is modeling error, like if you model the beam, plate based on either beam theory or plate theory, so there is, we call it as the modeling error. Second type of error that is there, we call it as the discretization error, because it happens because the finite, whether you take a finite or piecewise approximation, so that happens with the discretization error. And third type which is there is the numerical error, which happens while you solving the finite element equations. So most of the time you choose a small convergence criteria and those, so that's how the iterations and all those. So these three errors, numerical errors including modeling error, discretization error and numerical errors happens. So for an example, if you look at this figure, spring, what is the meaning of numerical error, I wanted to show you here. If you look at these two, so the finite element equation for this set of spring is this, and then determinant of the stiffness matrix comes out to be K1, K2. The system will be singular, and if K2 is smaller compared to the K1, so in that case if you see the result here, so this shows your K2 which is very less than Ki, Kj, that is the two linear close, the system is ill conditioned in that case. And the second figure, so if you take these two one can conclude that large difference in stiffness of different parts of the finite element model may cause ill condition, that is we call it the ill conditioning in finite element equation. So that happens because of large differences in stiffness of the different parts of the finite element method, and hence it gives a result with large errors as shown here. The yield condition systems of equations can lead to a large changes in the solution with the small changes in input right hand vector if you look at. So, the bottom one, right. So, this makes the difference what is the numerical error. The sixth point which is very important is the convergence of the finite element solution. As you remember, the convergence of finite element method, as the mesh is in any finite element model is refined from very coarse mesh to fine mesh repetitively, and you look into the results, the finite element solution will converge to the exact solution of the mathematical model of the problem. The model based on bar, beam, plane stress or strain plate, or if you take it as a cell, or if you take it as a 3D elasticity theories, or some other assumptions. So, the convergence of finite element solution matters, and you have to look for refined mesh so that you get a very exact solution. Basically, type of refinements that we come across, there are 4 types of refinement. We call H refinement when there is a reduce in size of the element. H refers to the typical size of the element. So, when there is a reduction in size of the element, right, so we say it as a H refinement. P refinement on the other hand, the increases the order of the polynomial on an element like linear to quadratic, etc. So, H refers to the highest order in a polynomial, right. Whereas, there is another refinement, we call it as the R refinement, that is the rearrange the nodes in a mesh. So, that is called as the R refinement. So, nodes are varied. And then the fourth one which is very popularly used is called as the HP refinement. So, it is a combination of the H and P refinements, and it is a that gives better result. Okay, so one can take examples to see these situations. The seventh point is to discuss is the adaptivity, that is which method, whether H, P or HP method you follow, the adaptivity. So, future of finite, it depends on the future of the finite element applications, and it also depends on the automatic refinement of the finite element meshes, automatic routines, algorithms, until converged results are obtained. Users responsibility also reduced, only need to generate a good initial mesh, and then most of the things it can be done automatically. So, that is the adaptivity, whether you choose H adaptivity, whether you choose P adaptivity or HB adaptivity. There are error indicators. So, we define the error indicators like if suppose sigma is the element stress, that is discontinuity, and say sigma prime is the averaged or smooth stress continuously, and if sigma E is sigma minus sigma star, that is the error stress field. Okay. So, what is the indicator? That means if sigma is your the element by element stress field, discontinuous, which is nature, and if sigma star is taken as the averaged or smooth stresses, which is a continuous one, then the difference of these three we define it as the stress sigma E, that is the error, and that is the difference of the stress field. And similarly one can compute the strain energy U, that summation of I and all those things, these are. So correspondingly error has to be introduced. If you look at these equations of the strain energy, so M is the total number of elements and VL is the volume of the element I. Okay. So that way for this there may be one error indicator, the relative error energy one can choose. So generally the relative inner energy is defined in this way, that is nu, which is equal to Ug by U plus Ug under root, where this nu is within 0 and 1. So this indicator that we call as the relative energy indicator is computed after each finite element solution, and refinement of the finite element method continues until one obtains the value of relative energy error less than or equal to 0.05 R04 R01. So one can set, and that defines the order of the error and better result. And so you get the converged finite element solution, right. So these concept, that is the 7 point, has to be kept very carefully in mind while solving, while iterating, while messing, while checking the error and all those things, stabilizing stability, all those things. So these are the some of the basic thing one has to look into carefully, and if you have knowledge about these, you have practice, that you can get through different examples, you solve it, try it, and then one can do it. So with this I would like to close it here, and we would further meet in lecture number 39, where we may start the 3-dimensional cases, and particularly now jumping to the metal forming problem. So far in general we discussed finite element application, but I would like to appreciate you for and I would like to thank you all for your patience listening the lecture. And once again I will request you that you please give your feedback, because your suggestions in the form of feedback either through my email or on the net where there will help me to improve the things for your benefit and for benefit of all other. So I thank you all. I once again thank you very much.